Hey guys, welcome back, and today we are starting my position rankings for the 2024 NFL Draft, and we're going to start with the deepest position in the class. That is the wide receiver position. Seen some top 15s. We're going to go 20 deep. Now, I could go 30 deep in the wide receiver class. There's some guys that are going to be left out here. Brendan Rice from USC, Ryan Flournoy. You're going to have guys like Jalen Coker, some guys that are right there on the edge that ultimately didn't end up making it for me. This is my top 20. I'm not saying my list is the right list, and I could be wrong on certain things. You guys are going to have very different lists than mine down below. So let me know what your guys' top 20 is down in the comment section. Leave a like, subscribe, and let's go ahead and get right into it with my number 20 receiver, and that is going to be Javon Baker from UCF. I really like him as a route runner. He's super shifty as a route runner, makes some really good cuts, but as you can see in the cons, he just doesn't gain a lot of separation. His speed as well, his top end speed is not elite, especially after the catch. Not a ton there, but he's got a really solid frame. I believe he's around 6'2". He's big, great hands, and he's a physical wide receiver. He's great at the catch point, a contested catch type of player, but not that elite speed that you would like to see. I think he is going to end up being around a third-round pick. I think he's going to be a really solid option. My comparison is another UCF wide receiver in Gabe Davis. After the catch, I think he's solid, but you can just see he doesn't have that elite acceleration that you like to see from the wide receiver position. Baker's a guy that I do like. He's not a guy that I'm not a fan of. I think he's a solid player, but it's such a deep class. He's at number 20. And there's going to be guys here that in last year's class probably could have been in the top 10. Javon Baker is one of those guys. He probably could have been a top 10 receiver. Ends up at number 20 in one of the deepest wide receiver classes I've seen. At number 19, we got Roman Wilson. And Roman Wilson is one of the hardest guys to rank. I know Michigan fans feel he doesn't get enough love, and he might not. I mean, Roman Wilson is a really, really good receiver. We saw it at the Senior Bowl. This guy was torching guys left and right. Excellent route runner. Extremely shifty. Just makes some super nice cuts, and he is able to gain separation. And that's what you want. You want separators at the NFL level. Now, due to a slender frame, he might be a slot-only type of player. Didn't really showcase a lot of blocking. Any run-heavy offense there at Michigan, his blocking is something I am a little concerned about. But I think he's a faster Christian Kirk. He's got strong hands, and he can burn you down the field. We saw that one-handed catch he made on Keon Mitchell at the Senior Bowl. I think this guy is going to be a really, really good player. His speed, his shiftiness, his route running, overall, I think he's a good player. Another guy who I think could probably go top 75 is probably where I think he's going to end up. But I'm a big fan of Christian Kirk, and I think he's got a lot to offer at the NFL level. At number 18, it's one of my favorite receivers in the class. I'm not saying he's one of the best, but this is one of my guys in this class, and that's Malik Washington out of Virginia. Virginia, we've seen it with Dontavian Wicks with the Green Bay Packers this year. They've produced some solid wide receiver talent, and I think Malik Washington is one of those guys. Now you're going to look at the size, 5'9", I believe he's around 200 pounds. Pretty small frame, limited production, didn't really do much at Northwestern, but what he did at Virginia this year was absolutely phenomenal. His speed isn't going to wow you, but this guy is shifty. He's a great separator, good route runner, and he's got really strong hands. It seemed like just about everything you threw him, he was going to come down and catch. He also has that ability, despite not being the fastest guy, after the catch. Really hard to tackle. He's slippery. He's very balanced as a prospect. Malik Washington reminds me a little bit of Julian Edelman. And I know he's a little bit smaller than Edelman, but Malik Washington is a very well-rounded prospect who's probably going to go in that third or fourth round range. I could see him sliding to day 3 simply due to his size, but don't let it mistake you. He is going to be in that conversation for this year's Puka Nacua, a guy that goes later that's going to make an instant impact. Malik Washington's a really good receiver, and I've got him at number 18. At number 17, we got Johnny Wilson, and I know this is low to a lot of people. Not a guy I am the highest on. Now, we look at the size, 6'7", incredibly large hands. He's got incredible speed. He's going to run in the 4.4s at 6'7". He's an incredible blocker. He's physical at the catch point. What's there not to like? Well, I don't think he's a very good separator. We saw this at the Senior Bowl as well. Just a guy who just really struggled to consistently gain separation. And I didn't like that. On top of that, drops. He has, I said he has a 99 contested catch rating. He's really good at that contested catch point. But when it comes to some of these just open, shallow crossers, he has some drops that show up on the tape that do concern me. Separation can improve, and I think he can be a little bit too physical at times to where he might get away with offensive pass interference from time to time. Johnny Wilson's size is going to push him up boards, but I think he's a third-round guy. I think you could probably lot him in with the tight ends of this class. It's a weaker tight end class. His blocking, his size, I think he's going to translate better to the NFL as a tight end than a wide receiver. My comparison's Harold Carmichael. The only reason why, it's his size. That's really the only guy that you can compare him to size-wise. We haven't seen a player like Johnny Wilson enter the league at 6'7" at the wide receiver position. He's an alien athletically, but when you look at some of the nuances of the wide receiver positions, his route running and drops, there are some concerns there. And I know a lot of people like Johnny Wilson. I think a lot of people like the idea of Johnny Wilson more than how he is as a prospect. Still at number 17, I still think he could be a solid player at the NFL level, but I got him at 17. At number 16 is Germaine Burton. Now, we have done videos on each and every one of these wide receivers. Tomorrow, the Germaine Burton video comes out. So for those of you that are like, oh, you talked really highly of Malik Washington, let me go see what you have to say in more depth, because I've done prospect spotlights on all these guys. I've got full-length videos on all of these guys, but Germaine Burton is coming tomorrow. He's the only one that we have yet to touch on, but this guy is a burner. He can win at all three levels of the field. He's good in that middle of the field range. He's a good separator, and he's got really strong hands. Played at Georgia, transferred to Alabama, was a good player last year with Bryce Young. Maybe took a bit of a step back this year, but I still think he had a solid season. We're going to talk about his character, and I think that's going to push him down boards because you saw him taunting the Georgia fans in the SEC championship. We've seen him hit a fan. There are concerns with his character off the field. Doesn't seem to have his head on straight at all times. On top of that, I think his play strength could improve a little bit. Really struggled at times to beat press coverage, so I'd like to see that improve. And after the catch, he really didn't showcase too much. I think he's got Doug Baldwin type potential. I think Baldwin, one of the more underappreciated wide receivers of the last decade. Germaine Burton, with the speed and the separation, he's a guy that I think could be a really solid piece, but we just haven't seen him put it all together yet. And when you mix in the stuff off the field, I think he's going to go probably in that 4th or 5th round because I don't think teams are going to fall in love with Germaine Burton, the person. At number 15, I got Ricky Pearsall. Now, the top 15, probably from 15 to 13-ish, you could put those guys in any order. This is my list. I went back. I was initially not very high on Ricky Pearsall. I'm like, the guy's okay. I mean, he's probably in that 22 range. After seeing what he did at the Senior Bowl, he moved up my board significantly, clearly at number 15. This is a guy that, as a Colts fan, I kind of would like to see what he could be. He has some of the best hands I think I've seen in this entire class. You've seen that one-handed catch that's been going around. He's a great route runner. He's physical, but I really love his versatility. You can play him on the outside. You can play him in the slot. You can line him up in the backfield. He is a guy that Florida lined up everywhere in their offense, and he thrived in each spot that they put him in. I love this guy's hand. He has the ability to catch everything, but you look at a limited route tree. Florida didn't ask him to be this elite route runner, so the routes that we've seen him run are good, but we haven't seen it on full display. On top of that, really not the fastest wide receiver, which I don't love. I like a little bit more speed. I still think he is going to be probably a top 75 pick again. He reminds me a little bit of Adam Thielen, just a guy who can line up everywhere. He's physical. He's a smart football player, and I think that's what Ricky Pearsall is going to be. I'm a big fan of him, and I've got him at number 15. At number 14, this is the most underappreciated receiver in the entire draft class, and it is Jamari Thrash. Transfer from Georgia State to Louisville. and just an absolute monster at the wide receiver position. He's a really good route runner, great hands, really good yard after the catch ability. He reminds me of a bigger version of Malik Washington. Now, he wasn't as productive as Malik Washington was, but I think they have very, very similar games. They both are incredibly balanced as prospects in terms of just being able to stay up after the initial contact. They have great hands. They are shifty. They can create separation. And after the catch, they're really hard to bring down. But neither of them are these big wide receivers. Neither of them are the fastest wide receivers. But I think he reminds me a little bit of Tyler Boyd. Just the ability to line him up in the slot, which is where I think he's going to play. I think Jamari Thrash is a really good receiver. This is my guy in this class who I think is this year's Puka Nacua. I think this is a guy that we aren't talking about enough. He is going to go probably in that 5th, 4th round range, similar to where Puka Nacua went last year. I think he's going to be an instant impact player at the next level. I've got him at number 14. I am a huge fan of Jamari Thrash. I think he's going to be a really good receiver. At number 13, we got Malachi Corley. Now, this is one of the most exciting wide receiver prospects. He's the yak king. What he does after the catch is incredible, and he's super quick as well. He's got that immediate acceleration at the wide receiver position. He's got good hands to catch almost everything thrown his way. But the biggest concern that we are going to keep hearing about throughout this pre-draft process is his route running. They didn't run him a lot. I was watching the Western Kentucky tape. They ran so many bubble screens for Malachi Corley, which is fine, but we just haven't seen him out as a complete route runner. His physicality is a question as well. Just not a contested catch guy, not a guy that you're going to trust to be the strongest player. He's great on the run, but there are some concerns there. I know it says Tyler Boyd is the comp. He reminds me of Deebo Samuel. I think that's one of the most comparable guys. Very similar body types in terms of just the way that they're built. Good after the catch, can be lined up in the backfield, great off screens. Malachi Corley is going to be a really fun receiver to watch in the NFL, and I've got him at number 13. At number 12, we got Xavier Worthy, who you could argue is the fastest wide receiver in the draft class. He has electric speed. He came into the season as my number 2 receiver, believe it or not. He did come in very, very high, but we look at it, not very physical at the catch point, very slender frame. I believe he's 6 foot, 175 pounds. He looks a lot smaller than that, to be completely honest. And then drops. This guy has 1 or 2 really bad drops a game, it seems like. But you look at it, a really shifty route runner, a guy who can create separation for himself. He has the ability to return kicks, return punts, which you like to see, and he's really good after the catch. He reminds me of Deshaun Jackson. I think there's a lot to like about Xavier Worthy. He's going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick for me. There are concerns with his game in terms of physicality, size, and his hands. So we'll see where he goes, but I got him at number 12. At number 11, we got Jaylen Pul, another guy who I think is going completely under the radar here. He's got a really good frame. He reminds me of Chris Godwin in terms of just the play style that they have. We came into the season thinking Jalen McMillan was going to be the number 2 receiver in Washington, and Jaylen Pul completely stole that from him. He's got good speed. I don't think it's like elite burner speed, but I think he has the speed to win downfield. Good contested catch guy, and he's got soft hands. Was pushed off his route in press coverage, though, and that's something you've got to be able to beat. And he didn't have a great separation package, a good release package at the line of scrimmage to really get space. I think he's going to be a good receiver. I think he should be a top 40 pick. I think a team like Tennessee or the Giants should take him pretty early in the 2nd round. That's where I would take him. But I've got him at number 11. I think Polk is going to be a really under-the-radar guy that people are going to fall in love with as the pre-draft process goes on. We're entering the top 10 now, and I've got Tez Walker. Tez Walker and Jaylen Polk are interchangeable for me. I think Tez Walker's upside is greater than that of Jaylen Polk's. This guy is played limited snaps for UNC due to some weird controversy with the NCAA, but he's got a big catch radius at 6'1", and he has elite burner speed down the field. Another guy who you could argue is one of the fastest guys in this entire class. I think in next-gen stats, he tested as the fastest guy. Sharp route runner, but his play strength and physicality are major concerns. And we saw this at the Senior Bowl time and time again. If a defender made contact with him, he was basically out of the play. He just could not figure out how to manipulate the defenders, create more space, and just win with his body. He is a good catcher, but not when a defender is draped on him. He reminds me of Christian Watson. Now, I think you can scheme him open. You can find ways to get him the ball. As a vertical threat, I think he could be a really good player. His speed is going to be what sells teams, and I think the upside with Tez Walker is there. But there are concerns with his game, and I think another guy who has a bit of a slender frame as well. I think he's going to be solid. Maybe a third-round pick, though. Like I said, you could swap him and Jaylen Pul. By the end of this, I think I might have Pul higher than Walker. At number 9, we got Ladd McConkey, and I know this is low for Ladd McConkey. Ladd is a really, really fun receiver. I love this receiver class, and even the next guy I've seen in the top 5 for a lot of people, he's not there for me. Ladd McConkey might be the best route runner in this class. Just the way he is able to manipulate defenders, sell his route, cut back in, and then he's got the hands and the speed to win after the catch. Really well-balanced prospect, but inconsistent as a blocker, a smaller frame, maybe just a slot guy at the next level, like a Wes Welker kind of guy. I know, comparing a white guy to a white guy. You knew it was coming. But I think Tyler Lockett is my comp for him. He's a really smart football player who understands how to manipulate defenders, not take big hits. And I think that's what Ladd McConkey can do. I think these guys are this next few so close with each other, but I think he's going to be a really, really good receiver. And by the end of this, he could be number 7 or number 6, if we're being completely honest. At number 8, we got A.D. Mitchell. I'm not a A.D. Mitchell hater. I think A.D. Mitchell's a good receiver, but I don't think he's a top 5 receiver in this class. He's got an incredible frame at 6'4". He's got great speed to win down the field, and he's actually a really solid route runner. His hands are sharp, and you've got some stuff there, but I didn't think he was a good separator. He struggled against press coverage, and, those are things that I want to see be better. He's going to be a starting receiver. He could be a number 1 receiver, but I think this receiver class is that good to where he's going to be the number 8 guy, and he's still going to be a really reliable starter at the next level. He reminds me of Nico Collins. I know everyone's going with the CeeDee Lamb comp. I can sort of see it, but he reminds me of Nico Collins in terms of just his deep ball speed, his ability to win down the field. And we saw Nico Collins was given a chance in Houston this year with a real quarterback. He thrived. I think A.D. Mitchell is going to be a fine receiver, but I got him at number 8. Him and Xavier Legette, interchangeable. And by the end of this, you could argue that A.D. Mitchell should be higher. I'm a big Xavier Legette guy. I know everyone's going to talk about, the measurables. He's still 6'1". He's still over 200 pounds. That's still really good size for the wide receiver. Yeah, he's not 6'3", but he's still got a solid frame. His speed down the field I thought was really impressive as well. Yes, he wasn't able to create a ton of separation, similarly to A.D. Mitchell, but, there's upside there for sure. You saw he struggled against physicality as well, which is something I am a little bit concerned about. Great speed, but he had some of the best hands in the entire class. He was able to come back to the football, and he made some really good plays on the ball. Open field explosiveness, his ability after the catch, not really there, but he reminds me of A.J. Brown, just an athletic freak. He's going to test out well at the combine. He's going to be one of the best testers of the week, and then everyone's going to forget what they said about the measurables. A.J. Brown is my comp. I'm not wavering. Xavier Legette is still a really good receiver. I've got him at number 7. At number 6, we got Brian Thomas Jr. Thomas, Legette, A.D. Mitchell, put them in any order that you want. I think those are like the next tier. That's in a tier of guys. Great frame, excellent speed, really good hands, great ball tracking ability. Limited production for LSU outside of this year. We haven't really seen Brian Thomas be that elite number 1. And his separation and physicality. He's got a bit of a slenderer frame for a wide receiver. Not an amazing separator down the field, but he's a smart player. I think he reminds me a little bit of Calvin Ridley. Ridley, very similar in all of those ways. And I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a first-round pick. I think all of these guys that we're about to talk about go inside the first round. I think we see 6, maybe between 6 and 8 receivers taken in round 1, legitimately. I've got Brian Thomas Jr. at number 6. At number 5, we got Keon Coleman. A lot of people have seemingly jumped off the Keon Coleman train. I don't understand it. I really don't. He's got great size. He's got the speed to win at the middle of the field. Now, when it gets to deep ball speed, I don't think Keon Coleman is in that elite tier, but he is a really good contested catch guy. He's going to have to develop more as a separator, and that's where a lot of his catches came from, is with defenders draped over him. He had the ability to win, but we haven't seen him be that separator. He's got good ball skills, great ball tracking ability, good hands. His separation, his long speed, a couple of drops showed up here and there, but I'm still all in on Keon Coleman as a starting receiver. A lot of people want to say he's this year's Quentin Johnston. I'm not seeing it. He reminds me of Mike Williams. If Mike Williams could ever stay healthy, he's a top 10 receiver in the league. I think Keon Coleman has that type of ceiling, and I've got him at number 5. At number 4, it's Troy Franklin. Don't really understand why people don't like Troy Franklin. He's shifty. He just explodes off the line of scrimmage. As soon as Bo Nix took that snap, he was gone. He's got a big frame in terms of just wingspan, height, big catch radius. Now, he's got a slender frame, but good hands as well. Ball tracking abilities are there. Why are we sleeping on Troy Franklin? Like, don't overthink it. This guy is a good receiver. Now, he can't run block to save his life, and there are physicality concerns with him, as there are with a lot of these receivers, but Devonta Smith is my comparison to him. I think he is a bigger Devonta Smith, really smart football player, really good hands, knows how to manipulate defenders, and he's my number 4 wide receiver. Entering the top 3, which you guys knew who the top 3 were going to be. Which order I have it in, that's the question. I've got Malik Neighbors at 3. Malik Neighbors is a good wide receiver, but I don't think he is this generational, right up there with Marvin Harrison Jr. type of receiver. He's just not, and that's okay. Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of the best wide receiver prospects that we've ever seen coming out of the draft. He is a deep ball threat like nobody's business. His ability to win down the field is ridiculous, and he's up there with Xavier Worthy and Tez Walker. This guy's speed is off the charts. He's a good route runner. He is shifty. He can create space. He's got good hands. The speed, the deep ball ability, I love that. His slender frame makes me think he might be a slot at the next level, just because of he's small. He's doesn't really measure out huge. He might be a slot at the next level, and LSU didn't run him on a ton of routes. So that's another question that we have to have with him. He reminds me of Jalen Waddle. I know everyone wants to say Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is a good comp. Jalen Waddle is a faster player than Stephon Diggs. I think he's a better deep ball guy. I think he is a good route runner as well. I'm not saying Waddle's better than Diggs, but that's who Malik Neighbors reminds me of. At number 2, it's Rome Odunze. DK Metcalf is my comp. Guy's got incredible speed. He's got incredible hands. He's got good size. He's a good route runner. He struggled against press coverage, and that's really my biggest complaint with him. His play strength, struggling against press coverage. Those are areas that have to improve for Rome Odunze, but this guy is going to be a top 10 pick. He is an absolute baller. He was incredible for Washington. He was the best player on the field at times in the national championship. Rome Odunze is a superstar. He's my number 2 receiver, but it was no question who the number 1 guy is. There's no such thing as a perfect prospect. There just isn't. But I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the closest thing we've had to a perfect prospect. The size, he improved his speed. Coming in, his speed was okay. I mean, he's not really a great speedy guy. He's going to probably run in the low 4.4s or the high 4.3s. I mean, that's how good he is as a speed guy. He's got hands to catch everything, elite body control along the sidelines, a great route runner. Really, the only concern, he does have the tendency to catch and then turn and run with the football. It's not really a fluid motion. And there are instances where it seems like he's taking plays off, but Kyle McCord will do that to you. I know Randy Moss is high praise, one of the greatest receivers of all time, but he's got it all. And I think that is going to be my comparison for Marvin Harrison Jr. And that is going to do it for this video. So those are my top 20 wide receivers in the 2024 NFL Draft. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. Leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.